The FAA publishes the test, the actual test. It's available to anyone through the government bookstores. We employ the questions, and they are invaluable as teaching tools to answer that big question. Do I really retain it? Have I learned it? I'll use the questions on page 1 to familiarize you with the testing method, the question structure, and certain teaching methods and testing tips that I'll employ throughout the course. The first caution is to become now and remain question number 100. You'll be given a book containing over 900 questions, numbered 3001 to 3915. You'll be instructed to answer 6 of them. If you need a good word to assigned questions, for instance, if you're instructed to word questions 3112, but you accidentally turn to 3211, even though you think you'll be answered, you'll just be getting better because there's margin for error. That camera in the mind that takes pictures of everything we see is taking pictures of 2 deliberate lies photographed. The proper way to approach is to cover the responsibility with the question and what the objective is. You cannot solve the problem unless you know what the problem is, and then you can get it. But to read the questions and then all 3 responses immediately thereafter invite trouble. All 3 responses to question 3421. But that's perfectly okay, because I'll use it to bring out another one. what it means, the different weather, we'll discuss at the proper time, but the immediate objective is the definition of the word front. The FAA test question asks it a little backwards, provides the definition in the stem of the question, and then we match the words. The boundary between two different air masses is referred to as a front. Of course, if we looked immediately at the question and answered it, the word front would just leap out, and you'd certainly choose it as being correct. But will you remember it later? The only way to find that out is to come back later and work it. Don't circle the answer now, but we'll come back after a while and see if you retained it. And combine word presentation with printed presentation. And in so doing, make answering these questions almost fail-safe. At the top, the next topic is visibility. Oh, a word of caution or a suggestion. Don't attempt to read the text matter as you're listening to the narration. Either listen to me first and then read the book, or vice versa. It doesn't matter. But the mind cannot handle two thoughts at once, and to attempt to is just confusing. And additionally, I have no intention of just simply reading the book to you. So, either look away from the page and just listen a while, or turn the tape off, read it, and then listen. It doesn't matter, as long as you don't try to do both of them at once. Visibility, needless to say, is very important. It's affected by many things: dust, haze, and smoke, and the amount of water vapor that's present within the given atmosphere. One method that the meteorologists, I'll use that word once, and from now on call them weather people. One way the weather people find how and what to expect in the way of visibility is by use of the temperature dew point spread. The term ambient temperature, the word ambient means the same as the surrounding. Ambient temperature is the regular, everyday temperature that we've always dealt with. What's the ambient temperature? I don't know. Look on the bank clock downtown. Whatever it says is the ambient temperature. The other one is called the dew point. And here's the explanation. If the ambient temperature cools to the dew point temperature of a given air mass, then that air mass is totally saturated, meaning that the visibility is gone. You can expect fog or low clouds. The difference between the two temperatures is called the spread, and obtained simply by subtracting the small number from the large one. If that spread is 5 degrees or less, for example, ambient temperature is 70 degrees at our destination. The dew point temperature is 67 degrees. The difference is 3 degrees. A 3-degree spread exists. Expect fog or low clouds. The warning sign is a 5-degree or less spread, and the spread is the difference between the two temperatures. We could go into a long-winded dissertation on how the dew point temperature is arrived at, but that'd be totally pointless. We could care less how the watch works, so long as we know how to read it. And what's important, and it is important, is understanding that that 5-degree or less spread means the possibility of fog or low clouds. You'll become very acquainted with the term spread. When you're obtaining a weather briefing, one of the most important questions is, what is the spread? If it's 5 degrees or less, look out. Expect fog or low clouds. That's the FAA test question, by the way. Destination temperature is 62 degrees. The dew point is within 5 degrees, and the temperature is falling. Upon your arrival, you might expect fog or low clouds. Say that to yourself a couple of 3 times. Fog or low clouds. If you ever see it as a response, choose it. It will be correct. It will deal with the temperature dew point spread. Another test question wants the definition of dew point. It reads, the term dew point means, and the answer, the temperature to which air must be cooled to become saturated. Now, to associate dew point and saturated air, it's again word association. Learning is largely memorizing, and one of the best memory aids is to associate the objective word with something ludicrous or ridiculous. And here, my intent is to cause you to associate dew point, and saturated air. And here's how we'll do it. If you sat on a park bench in your Easter clothes, you're all dressed up, and you sit down on a park bench, if it's early in the morning, there's apt to be dew all over that bench. Or, another possible troublemaker is a recently painted park bench. So let's mix the words and mangle them just a bit. Let's call it dew paint. What will totally saturate the seat of those pants or that dress? Totally saturated could be by dew or paint on that park bench. So if you'll close your eyes and say, dew paint will saturate my clothes, then from now on, when you see that term, dew point, saturated will come to mind. So if you'll keep your eyes closed, dress up in your Sunday finery, and sit down on a park bench covered up with dew and paint at the same time, it'll become totally saturated. And it'll certainly help you eliminate the other distracting responses. Dew paint means totally saturated. And if you think that memory aid was corny, you haven't seen anything yet. Upslope, you're gonna have to have a strong wind to push you. So if you'll close your eyes, I know it's corny, but also know it'll work. If you'll close your eyes and imagine a skier skiing upslope, he must have a strong wind behind him. And now, when the question, which types of fog depend upon wind in order to exist, upslope has got to be in the answer. The whole answer will be advection and upslope fog. Imagine that skier being pushed upslope by the wind, and that question will just roll over and play dead for you. But no, seriously, how's that important to the pilot? And it is, especially that advection fog. Again, the explanation is, wind moves in from the ocean through the inlet, temperature dew points come together, and fog could, within a matter of minutes, spread over the entire coastal region, extending several hundred miles. And if you're caught on top of that, now you're on top of an overcast. From the winter loss forecast and reports, if an incoming from the ocean wind is indicated, then along coastal regions, and most especially during the wintertime, you must be doubly alert for the possibility of advection fog. Before we leave the topic, one final look at the test question. Which types of fog depend upon a wind? Advection and upslope. From time to time, this constant repetition may seem a little excessive and might get a little boring. But the payoff will come when it's FAA test time. And that correct answer or phrase, words that you've heard me repeat so often, will just jump out and grab you. While those other two, the distractors, will just gallop over the horizon into obscurity. It's well worth it. Our next topic, in the center of page 2, cloud types at the big alphabet D. Clouds are divided into families according to their height range. Here's the weather people's problem. They cannot just say, there are clouds out there. That wouldn't do us any good. Where are they? Are they low to the ground, or are they relatively high? So they group them and categorize them as either low, middle, or high, and what have you. Clouds are divided into families according to their height range. What that means to us is, if low clouds are indicated or reported, then perhaps we may not be able to take off or land. But if they're high, we may be able to fly under them. Or, back to the low clouds, if there's not too many of them, we might, well, fly above them. So, where are they in relation to the Earth is important to us as a pilot. So, they gang them according to their height range. The FAA test question is, as you see it, divided into families according to their height range. Here's the mental trick for that one. Somewhere at home, you probably have a family portrait or a photograph, and the family members were divided according to their height range. Big people in the back, little people up front, so that everyone could show up. Or in other words, The family was divided according to their height range. And ditto with clouds. The FAA test question. Clouds, families, are divided according to their height range. The appearance of cloud is important to the pilot because it often can indicate what type of weather elements to expect with various types of clouds. Basically, cloud types are divided into either cumulus or cumuliform, that is the cotton candy or cotton bowl appearing cloud, and the other basic term used is stratus or stratiform. That is layered-like, straight-type clouds. A cloud, regardless of what it's called, is nothing but water vapor. It is not rain. The way rain happens, a cloud already exists as water vapor. If that water vapor becomes too excessive for whatever reason, it starts to fall as rain. The analogy is a sponge. Up to a certain amount, the sponge will hold the water. Beyond that amount, it falls overboard. Ditto with the cloud. When a cloud is producing rain, the suffix nimbus, N-I-M-B-U-S, is used and associated with that particular cloud type. There's one test question. The suffix nimbus used in naming clouds means the answer is a rain cloud. To help with that one, we've shown a bus adjacent to the left. And from the real field, with a little imagination, rain is falling from that bus. And hopefully, from now on, the word nimbus will call rain to mind. The suffix nimbus used in naming clouds means a rain cloud.